Welcome to Beyond the Skyline. This podcast is dedicated to topics related to UAPs, disclosure, and experiencers of all kinds. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and our guest for this episode is Les Velez. Now, he is a graduate of the University of Vermont with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration. Beginning in September of 1970, he served in the U.S. Army as a field artillery officer, and before retirement, he was VP of Lescombe Engineering and Silicon Valley-based manufacturing representative company. Now, Les joined MUFON and the Mutual UFO Network in 1991 and has held the following positions. He was a field investigator, a training coordinator for the field investigators. He was the assistant state director in Northern California, chairman of the AERC, the Abduction Experiencers Research Committee, which he was also involved with the MUFON ERT, the Experiencers Resource Team. Now, during this time, he became a facilitator for an abduction support group in San Jose, California, and we're going to talk about this organization, the Opus, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, in quite a bit of detail. And it was founded in 1994. Now, Les has appeared on Coast to Coast among many other shows. And today we're very lucky to have him with us. And Les, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Sheila. It's great to be with you.
Well, I am so happy that you're here with us. You know, you've got quite the resume there, and I'd like to, in your own words, I want to talk about Opus, but I was wondering if you could share with us just a little bit about how you really came to be where you are today.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. Of course, I'm a little bit prejudiced about that whole situation, but anyway, it happened. When I was 11 years old, I saw this object when I was living in Connecticut, and it was a late October, and it was early evening, and I was coming into the house after feeding my dog, and I saw this object silently hovering over a tree line very near my house. And it started to move away slowly. Again, no sound. It was self-illuminated. It was sort of an oval type of an object. And it scared the hell out of me. And I ran into the house and tried to get my father to come out. And by the time he did come out, it was gone. And he said, oh, it was probably just a beacon of light reflecting off the clouds. And so I said to myself, no, this was not a beacon of light reflecting off a cloud. So soon thereafter, I went to the library and I started looking for books on UFOs. And I found a couple. At that time, this is the late 50s, that George Adamski was the big ufologist, if you will, wrote a couple of books on the topic, had some incredible pictures that he had taken through his telescope of these objects, and the story of his contact with the Venusians, and the the drawings that he created showing these creatures that look like you and I. So I really got into it for a while. And then, became an adolescent and other things got, more interesting, and kind of forgot about the whole thing. And, went off to the University of Vermont eventually, was in the ROTC program and the Reserve Officer Training Corps. And once I was commissioned, and right after I had gotten married, and I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, to do my training there in artillery. And then I moved back to Connecticut, where I was born, and where this thing happened when I was 11 years old. And then in 1985, I moved out to California. And I picked up the San Jose Mercury News, as it was called back then. Now it's just the Mercury News. And Stanton Freeman, a nuclear physicist, was coming to San Jose City College to talk about UFOs and the government cover-up. Well, it was like somebody threw a switch, and it was like, oh, I've got to go see this guy. So I went to the college there and expecting to see a handful of people, and the auditorium was packed. There must have been like 300 people there listening to him talk about this topic. And it was a fascinating lecture. And on my way out, there was a table set up by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. And so they have a journal, a monthly journal that they publish that talks about the cases that they get involved with. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to get this, become a member of the organization and get their journal. Well, after a while, it wasn't enough for me. And I understood that they had a field investigator training course. So I decided to take that, pass the exam, and started to investigate cases. Well, it was really interesting because these cases that I got involved with, almost without an exception, these were cases where people had not only seen an object, but they also started to tell me about the fact that they had contact with these non-human intelligences. And so the first case, I was rather skeptical, to say the least. Plus, I was kind of a nuts and bolts kind of a guy back in those days. I said, oh, I was more interested in how these things operated, the technology that we could possibly gain from, anti-gravity, propulsion systems that work on some magical force of some sort. But the second case I got him, same kind of thing. The third case, the fourth case. And that's what started to happen, was the fact that there was, almost without exception, people telling me that they had contact with these non-human intelligences. And one day, this person said to me, do I know of other people having these experiences? Because, we keep all this stuff confidential. And so I said, yes, I do. And the next thing happening is I'm facilitating a support group where I brought these people together to sit down and talk about their experiences and then ask questions. And that was fascinating. I mean, that's where I really learned so much, by listening to these people tell their stories about what happened to them. And subsequently, I got a call from the international director of MUFON saying that he was contacted by a local reporter in my area there in San Jose. Actually, the reporter was from Monterey, and basically that he wanted to do an interview, with an investigator, and so they gave him my name and contact information, and he came out. We had a good conversation, and he wrote this article up, which was well done. And I got a call soon thereafter it was published in the Monterey Coast Weekly, and from this woman in Carmel. And she said that she would like to understand what was going on with her brain when she was in contact with these off-earthly entities. And I'm saying to myself, I said, I don't know how I could possibly help this person. And then she said she was working with an emergency room doctor down in Carmel. And that fascinated me because I had a doctor friend, Dr. Eugene Lipson, and he was interested in connecting with other doctors that are interested in the phenomena. And he's also a member of MUFON. So I said, why don't we go down there and talk to this person and see what's going on? So we did. We went down a Saturday afternoon and we walked into her home. And on the wall, there was a picture of her standing on the back of a rather large boat. And I asked her, well, and the water that this boat was in was absolutely beautiful, crystal clear blue water. I said, what's this all about? And she says, oh, I was helping these treasure hunters. I said, really? How were you helping the treasure hunters? She says, well, I was in touch with the captain of the galleon that had gone down. That started the afternoon off. And she started telling us things about us, that there was no possible way that she could understand what we were about, who we were, nothing. And so we found out subsequently that after a near-death experience that she had, she became very psychic. And so then she started opening up and having these conversations, and stuff was being downloaded to her from various sources. And she wrote a number of manuscripts from these various entities. And one of the entities was Jesus. And so, I mean, it was an incredible afternoon. And we came away from that afternoon saying, how can we possibly help people like this? And that's when Opus was hatched. The idea of Opus was hatched because we didn't have a name for it or anything at that point. But we said, we need to put something together. And so we did. We put together a really great team of people. And we came up with the name Opus, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. And in 1994, we officially became a nonprofit 501c3 recognized by the IRS, which always cracks me up. Paranormal and the IRS. I don't know how that goes together, but
Right.
maybe there's something to that. But so we've been doing, what we've been doing, and what we do, all right, is three things that we provide people that contact us. And you can see behind me here the website address, which is opusnetwork.org. We've provided three different things. One is a confidential online support group. Okay, and this is a very safe place where people can tell their stories, talk to one another, ask questions, and and people can do this 24/7, and they do, because we have almost 400 people in the group from around the world. I mean, this phenomena is not just relegated to the United States; it's all over the place, and
Right.
and so we have them from Africa, we have them from Europe, we have them from Asia, we have them from North and South America, and so it's all over the place. And so the second thing that we provide is a referral network of mental health practitioners and hypnotherapists. So if someone is looking for that kind of help, we can provide that as well. And we're always looking for more therapists, whether they're a mental health practitioner, a licensed mental health practitioner, or a certified hypnotherapist, because what's been going on here in the United States, especially with the congressional hearings on the UAP topic, this has been confirmation for a lot of people that
Yes.
we've been saying this all along, folks. Now you have confirmation. So a lot more people are coming forward now and telling their stories. We literally get two to three people contacting us daily and looking for some type of assistance. And then the third thing that we are able to do is that we have a triage group. These are people that are very familiar with a lot of the paranormal types of topics. And when a person comes to us, we will contact them. We'll have one of the people in the triage group contact them and talk to them, and find out what it is that they're looking for, and then help them. Whether if they're looking for a mental health practitioner or a hypnotherapist or something else that may come up. So,
Yeah,
and we
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say, with as many people that come forward, and you just spoke of, you grew really quickly to have the number of 400. And that's not the only people. There's people all over the world, as
Oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned, that have seen the various craft. Some report being on the craft, remembering all the technology, etc. It's always amazed me that it has taken this long for these sightings to be validated. And just like you said, with these recent congressional hearings, I think that's exactly what has happened. And you have been witness to that with more people coming forward. And so if people do want to reach out, all they have to do is get a hold of the opusnetwork.org.
Right, correct. And there's a button for support, and then there's a button for contact. Sometimes we get questions from people. They want to know a little bit more, or we get people that are therapists that want to join the group. And like I said, we're always looking for more therapists for sure, because this is going to only get bigger and more people are going to be coming forward.
And people who may want to volunteer, they don't necessarily have to be in your hometown. Is that correct? They can be
Absolutely.
all across the United States,
Or anywhere else in the
in
world.
the world.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Now with Zoom, it's amazing how we can
Oh,
all be in contact.
I know. I was just talking with someone from Australia yesterday, and so this is something that gives us remarkable reach,
Yeah,
which we've never had before. And
right.
so it's very possible, and it doesn't cost you a lot to do it.
Right, right.
Uh,
Since we're talking a little bit about disclosure, I'm wondering on a personal level, what do you feel are going to be the next steps that take place with the disclosure movement?
Well, I think what's going on right now is that we are moving forward, not at a pace where a lot of people are pleased with. Um, we have two factions that are kind of fighting each other. The group in the Pentagon, which really doesn't want a lot of this to come out, and then of course some of the Congress people, and those hearings just absolutely blew me away that they were so bipartisan. It was remarkable. We had Democrats and Republicans in the same room agreeing on something that was just made me feel so good, And some of the people in that room were really super conservative Republicans, but yet they were fascinated and interested in getting to the bottom of this thing. And then some of these people Congress people that attempted to go to that base in Florida, where supposedly some things are, um, they got a roadblock, and so that caused them to get very upset, and so we're working through this, and uh, I think it's going to take a little bit longer, but I think we will get there because I think there's a lot of impetus behind it, and there's you know it's remarkable. I mean, I would have never thought we'd be this far, at this point. And for me, having Grush, testify in Congress about the fact that we do have crashed UFOs, we have alien bodies. What else do you need?
Right.
You
Exactly.
know,
Exactly.
now we have to have pictures. We have to have all these senators show up at one place and say, "Yep, it's true. We got them. Here we are." But
It has to
there's
show up on the nightly news for the mass population to be in agreement.
right, and you could understand from a national security standpoint that, we don't want the Russians or the Chinese or the North Koreans or the Iranians to understand that we may have this technology, that we have reverse engineered it. So once you open up that box, it's hard to put things back in it, and
Right.
it's going to be interesting how they proceed. So, Chuck Schumer's bill that he proposed, it got watered down. Some of the teeth in it got taken out, but at least it's a step forward to a degree, and I think it'll continue to do that. Um, and so maybe 2024 might be the year that we actually get some definitive proof, as it were.
And then the world will change.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It'll
Right.
be
And
interesting.
I think that Opus is right on track with the fact that you also have to have mental health counselors because when the disclosure is actually public, even though it is public already, but
Hmm.
once that it is officially announced, I believe that there's going to be people whose faith are shaken. Some, it
Hmm.
may be strengthened. Some people may be so opposed to the idea that they actually begin to experience anxiety and depression. Other people are going to be elated. But I think that Opus is right on track with looking at yes, you have to have the support for the experiencers, but you also have to have the support for that mental health piece that goes hand in hand.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing too is, and we've been starting to talk about this more and more, that the stigma attached to the experiencers, um, it could be a real problem in the future because these people oftentimes have capabilities, healing capabilities, psychic abilities, telepathic capabilities. It may be looked at as another group that should be ostracized. And just like the blacks were, for years and years, which is still a problem in a lot of cases.
Right.
Whether you're a Muslim or some other religion, or so there's all kinds of prejudices that can exist. And so that's something I think we have to be very careful about too, because this may become another group that has a difficult time. I mean, there's been many experiencers that have come out and have had extremely difficult times, where they lose their job. They Chris Bledsoe wrote a book, UFO of God, and he talks about his experience with an entity, a woman entity, and the fact that he started to talk in his church. He was a deacon in a church down in, I think it was North Carolina, and he was ostracized horribly. And his family was, and so that's just the tip of the iceberg. And so that's another reason why a lot of these experiencers are still reticent about coming out and talking about it, because they can't usually talk to their family members or their spouse. They can't talk to their fellow workers. They can't talk to clergy. And it's been repeated so many times that this has gone on. So, but I think, as the evidence starts to get put on the table, a lot of these people are going to have to wake up and say, well, I guess it is real. These people are not crazy. And, we did back in 2008, 2009 timeframe. I was the head of a research study that MUFON actually funded, called the Omega-3 study, which you can find on our website, the opusnetwork.org site, in the article and document section. And what we took was 71 people that said that they had been abducted, had experiences, and 51 people as a control group. And we found that they did not have a psychopathology. None of the people in the two groups, none of them had a psychopathology. They were not fantasy prone, which debunkers talk about all the time. They certainly came away with a different worldview, that we need to be better stewards of the planet. We need to be more loving to one another. These are all very positive things. Most of these entities were not, malevolent or beneficent. They were kind of in between. But we did find out that there was some differences in their temporal lobe activity, which was fascinating. And that's something that Gary Nolan from Stanford University has been conducting MRI research on a number of these people. And they found out that the area between the caudate and putamen in the brain, that there was more connections with these people that exhibited telepathic capabilities, psychic abilities, things of that nature. And that these people were also connecting with other people that had the same thing. It's almost like an evolutionary process is going on. And whether or not that's something that was created by these entities in some way, shape, or form eons ago, and that's why they keep coming here and following on their experiment. But eventually, those people that don't have that capability will be gone. And only those people that have that capability will be here and will be breeding with one another. And it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Absolutely. Barbara Lamb and I are co-authoring a book together, and we should have it completed by the end of the month. And
Oh,
a great
fantastic.
deal of it has to do with walk-ins, hybrids, star seeds, etc. And it's fascinating when we get into the hybridization process and some of the history of the hybridization, not necessarily on craft, but actually going back through the history of humanity. And the other thing is with the star seeds, more and more people on the planet are waking up to the realization that they're not from here. And they're having, incredible memories about having come from another planet before they chose to incarnate on Earth. And
Hmm.
one of the reasons that they chose to incarnate on Earth at this time is for exactly what's happening. They're helping to hold the space as more and more people are waking up to the truth of who they are in the universe.
Hmm. No, I totally agree with you. And getting back to Gary Nolan, he just triggered something that he had a presentation where he was talking about the fact that geologists say the planet is 4.5 billion years old, our planet. Well, our genome evidently mutates every 600,000 years. Well, based on where we are in our evolution,
Mhm.
the planet would have to be 9 billion years old to be where we are, unless somebody manipulated something way back here. So, so that again, it seems to point to the fact that, we have been manipulated, okay, eons ago. And so and all these people that are coming forward, whether you're a hybrid or a starseed or whatever you want to call it, these are people that have a significant role, and they're waking up to that role,
Yes.
which is incredible. It's incredible.
Right. Now, I want to circle back again. I want to talk about the name of Opus. One of the things,
Mhm.
when I first looked at your background, it's like, oh, yeah, Operation Us. Okay, let's not go there. Let's go somewhere else here. So then I started looking at the name again, Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering what type of paranormal stories are you hearing? Are you hearing things other than contact or sightings?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I'm glad you asked it because, yeah, the paranormal encompasses a lot. Whether it's spiritual awakening, Kundalini awakening, poltergeist activity, uh, angels, demons, you name it. Okay, anything you can possibly think of. People say, well, are they extraterrestrial or are they interdimensional? Are they time travelers? Is it our military or is it all the above, which I believe it is? It can be just about anything you can think of. It's just a different reality.
Right.
Um, so as it's turned out, majority of people that are contacting us for whatever reason are people that have had UAP, UFO type of contact with non-human intelligences. However, we're open to anything, and we do have other associations with other organizations that the Spiritual Awakening Network and various other organizations that deal with poltergeist activity, Lloyd Auerbach, for instance. And so we do have those associations where we can then point people to their sites and things of that nature. But yeah, the paranormal, once you start going down that rabbit hole, it encompasses a whole lot, a whole lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, for me, it seems like everything fits in various levels or octaves of frequency or consciousness.
Hmm.
Everything has to do with consciousness, our perception, the dimension that we're in. Is it a parallel universe? And I'm wondering what type of discussions that you may be having at Opus about the possibility of other dimensional beings or interdimensional beings or even the inner earth beings under the water.
Hmm.
What are
Sure,
some of your
sure.
discussions?
Well, what we did just recently, we just finished the first phase of the Omega 4 study, where we actually went out to therapists and had them complete a questionnaire. And what we came back with is that the number one thing that people talked about, their clients talked about, was the grays. The grays seem to be like this ubiquitous entity that all the other races use, whether you're a mantis or a reptilian or a Nordic or something, but they all seem to use, there must be some store in the universe where they all go in and shop like for an iPhone or
Like little
something.
clones.
Yeah, exactly. But the second thing was interdimensional beings was
Mhm.
the thing that people talked a lot about. And then orbs were another factor. And
Yeah.
and so in these orbs, a lot of people. I've been involved with a woman that was living in Sedona, and I had gone out there to talk to Tom Dongo, and he said, "You got to see this lady and see the pictures that she's taken of these orbs." So I did. I went out there, and it was amazing. And she had this capability. Um, she would get a sense that something was going to be there. And so she'd have her camera ready and she'd start taking pictures. Click, click. This is, an SLR type of digital camera. And and so this one evening, I'm sitting on the back porch overlooking this canyon where she lived, and she stopped and she says, "Okay, hold on a second. I'm getting a sense that something's going to be here." And she started taking pictures over my head. Okay. And I've got the picture of this thing. It's a large red orb. Okay. With like a little yellow cap on the top of it. And as she clicked each frame, the orb changed because you could tell it was moving because of the yellow cap moved.
Mhm.
And then she said, "Now I've got some more pictures." So she's taken these orb pictures and she's blown them up, okay, so that you could get a better look. And honest to God, there was grays in the orb, a typical gray head, and it was like one was close to the opening of the portal, and then there was some in the back that were looking one direction, another one looking in another direction. So these are like portals that are opening up, and
Yeah.
and uh, it's truly amazing that we're starting to see a lot more activity of the orb type going on these days.
Yeah.
And this what was the picture by oh a Terror in the Sky,
Mhm.
where they actually took a picture of a portal opening up. Um, uh, what was her name? The I can't think of her name right now. That was involved with that. But anyway, it seems to be happening a lot more now, or at least
Yes.
because of the fact that everybody has a phone now or a camera on their phone, and so
Right.
we're getting a lot more evidence that way. It's
Right.
amazing.
Well, yeah, just like your friend in Sedona, that's how I
Mhm.
get the majority of all of my craft photos
Mhm.
is they'll say, take a photo now, bam, 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 bam. And
Uh-huh.
then there's a craft here, a craft here, a craft here, craft up here. I've got some absolutely phenomenal photos. And I think that if people take the time to listen or to follow that intuition inside, that and most people are now, that they're getting these incredible photos. I have seen orbs that honestly looked exactly like a lady sitting in a rocking chair holding a baby with a gray right behind her.
Oh,
I mean,
jeez.
you just can't make this stuff up. You can't
Uh,
superimpose. I mean,
yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
you could. I can't
Mhm.
superimpose those kind of images in these orbs. And there's discussion, that the different colors are representative of different aspects. Some actually carry disincarnate souls, while
Mhm.
others would carry extraterrestrial, while others are actually craft disguising themselves as
Mhm.
orbs. So I'm
Mhm.
wondering if any of the research you've done or with the people that you've spoken to, if they are also identifying various orb colors with various types of things that they're seeing or experiencing.
Yeah, typically most of the orbs are just basically a whitish type of a thing. Um, but there has been like my orb was red. I mean, it was bright red. Um, and so I've heard of blue ones, I've heard of green ones, and so as far as associating that, I never blew up that red one. I should contact her and say, blow that one up. Let's see what's in there.
Right,
But
right.
um, no, I think you mentioned consciousness, and one of the things that happened in one of the support group meetings was a person said to me, "I've seen you before." "Oh, where? At a UFO conference?" "No, I saw you on board the craft." I said, "Really?" And so I kind of blew it off. I didn't think too much of it. Um, and then it was like a year and a half later that a totally different person said the same thing to me. I said, he said, "I've seen you before." I said, "Where? UFO?" "No, no, no. You were sitting on this bench naked and you were freaking out, and he told me to go over to you to calm you down." Well, at that point, I decided to go get regressed. And I
Mm-hmm.
had 3 separate regressions, and I didn't come up with anything like that, but I had multiple past lives, and so subsequently, it was like another year or so, I was talking to somebody about this incident, and they said, "Well, maybe somehow this person tapped into a past life that you had. They saw you, and they were in that past life as well." And reincarnation is the way the universe works, evidently. One of the people who actually, in my book, I wrote a book a couple of years ago called The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien Contact, which is on Amazon. And he talks about the fact that during his uh, conversations with this particular entity, they got into talk about reincarnation, and the entity basically said, "Yeah, that's the way it works. This is something that's going on all the time." And so I think that you know one of the conclusions now that I've come to recently, which may sound very out there, is I think we've all had an experience, whether we consciously remember it or not. Um, and back in '92, when the Roper organization came out and said, "Yeah, there's like 6 million people that have had experiences in the United States," and fast forward, how many more people in the United States? But this is a worldwide phenomena,
Right.
and so is this a process that's going on where eventually, with the hybrids or the hybrids, as Jacobs talks about, uh, you know. It's going to be like this slow takeover, or is it something that needs to happen because this race of aliens is dying out, and that's the only way they can survive, by blending our genes with their genes?
Right. Right. Lots of questions to be
Oh,
answered.
yeah, and not a lot of answers.
That's right. Not a lot of provable answers.
Oh, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Right. Now, I am sure that you've probably heard thousands of stories by now, and I'm wondering, is there a common thread that you find among these stories?
Well, yeah, the basics of the stories are all very common, but then it's the when you know take make it more granular, you get in there and really dig around, yeah, things then do become different. The basic, they come and they take me through the wall or through the ceiling, and they bring me on board the craft, they put me on a table, they take samples of everything, and they bring me back, and they have the wrong clothes on me, or they're inside out, or there's
Mhm.
no clothes, or uh, a lot of that is very similar, very similar. Um, and then who they're actually interfacing with. There seems to be the four probably very common, either the tall gray, the short gray, the mantid type, the reptilian type, the Nordic type, the military type. Uh, this seems to be the most common. Of course, there are other entities, different versions of these entities that are out there. I mean, I've heard numbers like 176 different ones are visiting us, but if they're interdimensional in nature, you could have millions. You can literally have
Exactly.
millions.
Exactly. And they could have a civilization
Yeah,
existing right here, right now,
right next to
even in
you.
between the camera, you know,
Exactly.
but
Between
because
you and
they
I.
vibrate at a higher rate, then we're
Right.
not able to see them.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, I
Exactly.
definitely think that we're living in very exciting times, and I look
Mhm.
forward to seeing what's going to happen in the future. And I'm wondering if you have any predictions. What do you see coming up?
Well, I think, these congressional hearings are going to continue. There's a lot of impetus behind it, and I think people with some clout that are pushing this, and so I think it's going to happen. Again, it probably won't be like you and I would like to see totally, but I think it's going to definitely be a lot further along. And so I think that that's a positive thing. Now, there are predictions about the fact that something very significant is supposed to happen by 2027. This psychic from Bulgaria, I think it was, that had predicted the fact that a meteor or an asteroid would hit the Earth in 2027. And I had heard the fact that NASA had given a presentation in Japan, and this goes back a couple of years ago, about the probability of an asteroid hitting Earth in 2027. And they said this was just a scenario. But this woman, who's since passed away, had predicted a number of things, and her hit rate as far as her psychic abilities was very high, and it predicted the World Trade Center being hit and things of that nature. So evidently this asteroid is being directed here by an alien race. So that's very interesting. So if you want to party, start now.
There you go. Well, there's also the predictions about the solar flash that's going to wipe out everything. The 3 days of darkness. There's so many predictions out there. We'll see. We'll see. I think we all chose to be here at this particular time for a reason, and I guess that reason's yet to be unveiled to us. So, one last question that I have is is there anything that we haven't talked about that you really want to share, or a point that you'd like to get across to people?
Sure. I think first of all, what you're doing, okay, is very important. And shows like yours are very important, because since the advent of the internet and podcasters like yourself, this is getting the word out to a lot more people. Last year I was on 42 different shows, and I thank you for what you're doing. So I want people listening to the show to understand that this is a very significant positive thing that you're doing, and so I super appreciate the fact of being on your show and being able to tell my story, okay? Because otherwise, we'd be back, having maybe one or two conversations a year, if that, and so it's important. And I know that you've got a whole lineup of different things that you're involved with, and people should go to your website and check you out, because you're doing a lot of wonderful things. So thank you for that, Sheila.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I think that these things, I wonder why, I got involved with this. All right. And this path that I went down, and I've tried it a number of times to say, okay, I'm done. I'm going to leave. I'm going to do something else. But I get pulled back in. And I think the universe, if you will, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm sure you feel the same way as far as what you're doing. And so I think that each one of us has some kind of a role that we're supposed to do. And I really believe that this is what my lot in life is, if you will, to try to continue to help people and give them the kind of support that they need. And the other thing is, as a nonprofit, we depend on donations. So if you go to our site and you see something you really like, hit that donate button. And also, we're on YouTube, okay? And please go there, subscribe, hit the like button. We have a lot of interviews that I've done, okay? Like Linda Moulton Howe I've done, Melinda Leslie. I haven't gotten to Barbara Lamb, although I know Barbara very well. Matter of fact, say hello to her for me.
I will.
And so, yeah, it's something that is important as far as our sustainability, being able to continue our mission. So, uh, but I think that's about it. The book is on Amazon, The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien Contact, where I talk about the physical, the psychological effects of the phenomena, as well as a number of other things. And I have 25 cases from or stories from the support group that people have let me post in the book. So I think you'll find some of those really fascinating.
Wonderful. And so again, if people want to donate, they just go to opusnetwork.org
Right.
and hit that button,
Yep.
donate. Get 1 million people, $1 million. That'll help a lot.
Oh
There
my
you go.
God. Then I'd have to pay
That's right.
taxes.
And it is tax deductible. So
That's
that's the
true.
beautiful thing about it.
That's right.
We reinvented the Conscious Awakening Network probably in August and launched. And since the relaunch, it has been phenomenal with the types of programming and the numbers that we're seeing. I just got our new numbers in, and you total everything up, and we're getting close to 500,000 downloads on Spotify, Apple,
Wow.
Amazon. We have the television apps where people can watch us on Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, or Android. We have our own radio station. We're on all of the various, live streaming platforms as well as the social media. And the things that I notice, we have two major themes that's running that
Hmm.
seem to be the most popular. The first is the practical spirituality and
Hmm.
how people are finding themselves waking up, the support, etc. And then we have our cosmic families, people telling their stories about extraterrestrials and waking up as star seeds. And so really, if you look at podcasting over even the last 5 years, the dominance is starting to be more and more of these paranormal type experiences, which would also include the soul experiences, the near
Hmm.
death experiences,
Hmm.
etc. And so our world is really rapidly changing, and it's good to know that Opus is out there. It's good to know the foresight that you had in setting up these mental health professionals to help people to have a place of support that people can go and share their stories. So I was very excited to be able to share your story today on Beyond the Skyline. And so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Sheila. And I really appreciate you having me on your program. And I wish you the best of luck. And maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Sounds great. All right, everybody, you've been listening to us on Beyond the Skyline on the Conscious Awakening Network. Tune in every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. for more UAPs, disclosure, and experiences of all kinds. And until then, keep looking up, and we'll see you next time.